Deb with Four Seasons Crafts, and today we are going to be using the Flowing Flowers stamp set. I absolutely love this stamp set. It is making some beautiful cards. So we are going to make 4 different cards today, and we're going to get started right in. So we're going to start with some simple stamping and then move up to some really fun watercolor. So what we're going to need is just a card base that's 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. And we're just going to use the thick white cardstock. And then we need just a layer of white at 5 1/4 by 4 inches. And this is the card that we're actually going to make. But what we're going to be using is Bumblebee. Bumblebee is a retiring color that is part of the In Colors for 2020, 2022. And so this is the one we're going to choose. So let's get started. So the first thing we are going to do on our simple stamping card, we'll move our measurements out of the way here, is we are going to use a blending brush. And we're going to just tap that right in and put a little bit down there so we don't get a big, huge thing of yellow. And we're just going to put some kind of diagonally in the middle of our card. Nothing extravagant, just a little bit of yellow, a little bit of Bumblebee there, and that is it. Now we're going to take our, we're going to take this stamp here. Isn't that lovely? It has some beautiful little speckles and flowers. So we're going to ink this up in our on our ink, and then we are going to do a couple different, so what we're going to do is we're going to ink up our flower there, like that. And then the next one we're going to do, we'll put one up here at the top. Then we're going to do 2 other ones, but this one, the other 2 we're going to put on, we're going to actually stamp off. So we're going to stamp off and then stamp on our card. So it's just a little lighter, and do that again up here in the corner. We're going to stamp off and then stamp up here. One thing I want to tell you guys, the reason you can't stamp this and then go right over here and stamp is because when you stamp off the edge of the paper, and let me show you, I'll just stamp on the back of this one. Okay. See, hopefully this is going to show through. If I stamp here and I say, oh, okay, now I'm going to stamp over here. Do you see how you get that line right there? This right here. That's why you can't really stamp, like do your stamping and then stamp on the next space unless you kind of move further over, which you can do that. So there we go. So we got our card all stamped. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use some black, just our Memento black, and we are going to stamp just a note on our front of our card. Now, don't ask me why, guys, but sometimes I always like to stamp on my practice paper, but I think we can, this is pretty straightforward here. So we'll see. So I'm just going to take that, line it up, and stamp across it. There we go. Beautiful. So again, simple stamping. We just did a little bit of our Bumblebee in the middle. So see how it made like a nice little tone? And now we're going to take our card base and grab our bone folder, and we're just going to put that right down, and we're going to add some dimensionals to the back. And we're going to pop this right up, and we will be done with our first card. Pretty straightforward. And we'll just put these around the edges here. And there we go. All right. Okay. And now we're just going to lay this right down. Make sure it's going the right direction. Make sure we have the proper space all around our card. And it should be about 1/4 inch all the way around. And there you have it. All right, look at that. I love it. I love that color. So here it is in Melon Mambo, and here it is in Bumblebee. You guys can tell me which one you like better. All right, card number 1. We are going to move on now to card number 2, and we are doing everything with Bumblebee ink. So our second card is going to be a layering card, a triple layer card. And this is it right here. I absolutely love this technique. I think it is so pretty. And this one came out really well. So here are the measurements for this card. Again, we're going to use a card base and we're going to use the thick white. Then you need 3 different sizes of basic black, 5 3/8, by 4 1/8, 4 1/2, by 3 1/4, 3 1/2 by 2 1/4. Then we need some basic white that we're actually going to be stamping on, 5 1/4 by 4 1/2, or by 4, 4 1/4 by 3, and then 3 1/4 by 2. Excuse me. And then we're going to use some, we're going to use this glitter ribbon. I just thought it was so pretty. And then we're going to have a sentiment. Now, the sentiments I got from many messages, and I had printed out or stamped out a whole bunch of these, and I really like them. I stamp them out, and then I keep them in a bag, and then they're right there to be used. All right, so here we go. We're going to take our 3 pieces of cardstock, and we're going to take all the pieces of white cardstock. And this is what you do. So once you get your measurements, and I'm going to go ahead and move this off to the side, what you're going to do is you are actually going to take these and you are going to layer them. Now, we need them to stay straight. So what you're going to do is take a very little small bit of adhesive. Now, this is pretty strong, but you can use this. You could potentially use a glue dot because we're stamping around the edges. You could also use some of the older adhesive, but all we're going to do is we're just going to do like a very small little bit there. Make sure I actually get some out there. There we go. And just do a little bit. Oops. There we go. Just a tad. And then we're going to line this up so we have an even border. And it's straight around our whole card. Let me get this straight here. And then we're going to do the same thing with this one. I'm just going to take this little bit that's on my finger here, and now we're going to line it up. So all the 3 pieces are evenly spaced. All right, here we go. Now we're going to take our stamp. We're going to use this flower, and we're just going to stamp around. Now, you can do it in the corners. You can move wherever you want, but all you're going to do is you're going to ink this up, and you're going to get a little bit of an edge. Now, one thing about this particular technique is, oops, we might be able to cover that up. I think I had something on my finger there. Okay, so now we're going to do the next one here. And again, stamp it. And we'll stamp maybe right along this corner. And then, oops, that one might be a little hard to cover up. And then we're going to stamp one more here. Let me make sure we can get a good ink there. And we will stamp right here. All right, there we go. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take this, and now we're going to separate all of our pieces. Now this right here, I might need to take a little bit of yellow, and what we might do is take one of our stamp here that we were using, and we might have to actually fix that one up a little bit. So I'm going to see if we can maybe do a little ink right there. We'll see, guys. We're going to see if we can fix this up. I don't know. There we go. It's a little better. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take these pieces apart. There we go. I think that may have been, maybe my pieces got a little moved around. And now what we do is we're just going to adhere them together with the black underneath. So now we're going to take our adhesives and we're going to line each one of these around. Now I will tell you the first measurement you'll notice is there's just 1/8 of an inch difference, and the other ones are 1/4 of an inch difference. And that is because I did try the smaller border because I actually prefer that, but I couldn't get the smaller border because I was it showed too much of the white. So you might run into the same thing, that you need that actual 1/4 inch difference between each one. So again, we're just going to line these up on our cardstock here. Make sure it's centered. And then you can see what we're going to end up doing is gluing this one down right over top. And then we have one more. I'm going to do this one here. Again, we're just going to put our adhesive on the back and layer that right on top. And we're going to fix up that little smudge that we made there. We'll get that taken care of. All right. And now we're just going to layer again. And we're going to layer, oh, before we do that though, we want to put our ribbon on. So we want to put our ribbon on the top, underneath the top two. So I'm going to take this. Got a little, I got my adhesive under there, but we'll try to, we'll work on that. Again, you'll want to make sure that when you lay these down, that you're getting them so the edges, see that? How they kind of just blend right in together. It's absolutely beautiful. Looks so much more complicated, right, than it is. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to take our ribbon here, and we are just going to move this right below here, and we're going to tie it in a knot. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up and down, and we want it to be pretty snug, and then we are going to tie it again the other direction. Okay, so when we tie it this time, just in a regular bow, let me get this maybe moved over a little bit closer. Okay, so we tie it once, we're going to tie it again, only we are going to have it go, oops, I am really struggling right there. All right, there we go. Part of being, right, the whole camera thing. All right, so I'm going to move it a little bit over to the side. It's this way, and now we want to turn it so our knot goes the opposite way. And there we have it. And we'll get those moved around a little bit. Hopefully it will lay like I want it to. I don't know. Maybe not. All right, there we go. Trying to do this on camera, right, guys? It's always a little tenuous. So actually, let me do this one more time. We'll leave them together, but we'll just tie it up this way, put our finger there, and then we'll go up and down. There we go. There we go. All right. There we got it. And we are going to trim this up. Normally, I would say go ahead and take your ribbon kind of off the spool there, and then that'll make it a little bit easier. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to glue this right across that, and our little boo-boo that we made will be gone. So I'm going to go ahead and put some adhesive right here. And again, it hangs off the sides a little bit, so we want to keep it, our adhesive, a little more across the top there. And make sure again that it's even. And there we have it. And now we're going to go ahead and adhere this Now that we have our ribbon on there, we'll put some more adhesive. And we will put this right down. Again, centering to kind of make sure that our card petals line up. And there we have it. Now we're going to just adhere it. Again, we'll take our bone folder here, straighten that out, and we will now adhere it to our card base. And you know, this card too, the nice thing is you can do so many different colors, and you know, the options are endless. All right, here we go. And we'll line that up right there. And there you have it. All right. So this is our second card. What do you guys think? Yellow, Melon Mambo, Bumblebee. I like them both. All right. So there we go. That's our second card. Now we're going to move on to our third one, which is some watercoloring that we're going to do. So this card, you're going to need a piece of water. So you need your card base, and we're going to use Very Vanilla. And that's, of course, 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. Then you're going to need a piece of watercolor paper, which is 3 inches by 4 1/4. Then you're going to need just a couple strips that go along the side we're going to use to decorate. This was 3.5 by 2 inches. And literally, I just tore them. So this was the actual Marvelous, and it's in the Bumblebee. You could use something totally different, or you could skip that portion. Then I have another 2 strips that are 3/4 of an inch by 3 inches. We're going to use those to kind of go to the top and the bottom. And then I have a couple vellum circles that are 1.5 inch. A basic black circle of 1.5 inch, and a sentiment. So you're going to need some sort of piece with a sentiment. I've already stamped that. It also comes in the Flowing Flowers. So it's this one right here. And I put that on Very Vanilla as well. All right, so those are our pieces. And we're going to make it's going to look a little different, but this is the card I did earlier. So again, it's going to be somewhat similar, but we're going to make a few changes from this card here. Now, so one of the first things we need to do is we are going to do some watercoloring. And don't let that scare you, because this is some easy watercolor stamping that we're doing. So I'm going to take our first thing we're going to do, because we'll need this to dry. I will move our instructions out of the way. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to take one of these little sprayers that you can get in the catalog, and it just has water in it. That's it. So normally, you know, when you watercolor, you put water on a brush. Well, this, we're going to spray directly on our piece of watercolor paper. And this is the Fluid 100 that Stampin' Up! Sells. And I'm just going to run my finger across it there. Now I'm going to take my stamp and I am going to stamp that up in Bumblebee. We're sticking with the Bumblebee color. And now I am just going to stamp it here. I'm going to stamp off. And then I'm going to stamp in there again and stamp over. And there we have it. There is our watercolor flowers. Isn't that pretty? I love that effect that you get from that watercolor. Now, because this has to dry and we're kind of in the midst of a video, we don't want to watch it dry. Now I can pull out the drying tool. The name completely escapes me. But the Heat Emboss tool. But instead, I actually already had done this. So I just wanted to show you. Here's the finished one. Now, if you don't like the flowers, like if you're like, oh, you know, I just don't think they really show the flower that I want, you can take your stamp again, line it up to where those flower petals are right here, and just stamp again. Just stamp right over top of it, and you still get that watercolor look without like the, you know, without having to use like a brush or anything. So can you guys see that? Now, the other thing I wanted to show you real quickly was, what if you didn't use watercolor paper? This is what it looks like. So I'm going to pull in this right here because I think this is a better example. So this was on watercolor paper. See how vibrant the colors? And then see this one here? It almost too looks blurry, I think. So I just wanted to show you the comparison because I know for the longest time I was like, I don't want to have to get watercolor paper, but it does make a difference. So I would really highly recommend that you, if you want to do watercolor, that you do that here. Okay, so now we are ready. That was like the biggest part of our card. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take our piece of ribbon and we are going to put this around our card, and we don't want to cover up our nice beautiful watercolor, so we are going to make sure it's up a little bit from the top and just put some adhesive, and we're just going to wrap that ribbon around, and we'll probably do a little trimming here because we don't want it to be too thick in the back. All right, beautiful. Now we're going to take, remember those dots we had here? Okay, so we're actually going to layer those on top of each other. So I'm just going to put a little bit of adhesive there, and we're going to cover this up with our sentiments, but we're going to, so we're just going to offset those a little bit right there. And we'll set those off to the side. Now we're going to bring in our card base, okay? And what we want to do here is we're going to actually stamp a little bit around this image, but we don't want it to be too bright. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to stamp off twice and then stamp on our card. Okay, so we're going to stamp twice and then stamp on our card, because we want just a very, very light image that's going to show through on our card base. It's just going to peek out. So again, stamp twice and then stamp on our card. And there we have it. So that's, we just want to get a little bit of color back there on our card. So now we're going to take this right here, and we are going to take these yellow pieces and we're just going to put those at the top. Again, we're just adding a little bit of color. So we're going to take some adhesive on the top, adhesive on the bottom, and then we're just going to layer this so we have, and we just want a little bit peeking out the top. Okay, so we're just going to lay this down. Now you guys can have more, less, you know, whatever you think you would like, or however much you would like to show, you can have that peek through there. And now we're going to do this one. Same thing. Look at that. It is coming together. Looks beautiful. Okay, so now we're going to find out exactly where this is going to get positioned on our card. And then we have these strips here. And I kind of want the teared edge to show through. So I'm just going to figure out exactly maybe where I want those positioned here on both sides. And again, I just want a little bit to kind of peek out. And that gives me some idea of where I like it. So now, again, I can just turn these over, put a little adhesive on them, and then glue them down. Now, the thing about this is, and the same thing over here. Now, I'm going to bring this card back in because I want to make sure that if this is going to peek out a little bit and this one's going to peek out a little bit, that I don't have components or pieces sticking out where I don't want them to. Okay, so there we go. Now we have this half circle. This one we're going to cut in half. So we're going to take this, we're just going to trim that right in half, and we're going to just have this tuck out a little bit. And again, it's just a little bit, I guess, adds a little bit more of a layer, little bit of dimension there to our card. So again, we can kind of go back in and say, yep, I like how it is coming together. Now what we're going to do is we're going to pop this up on dimensionals. All right, so we're going to grab our dimensionals and move this in here just a little bit. Put some dimensionals on here. And then, and again, the only big piece of this particular card was watercoloring, and all we did was we sprayed it and stamped. So how cool is that? So here we go. We're just going to kind of line that up and make sure we have a nice even look to our card, which we do. Now we're going to take this piece here and we're going to put this up as well on some dimensionals. And I think, guys, I need to get out the minis because we want just a little bit of height over top. So we'll grab a couple of these and put them right on the edge. So again, we kind of want this to be the part that's over here. So we're going to put it at the top and at the bottom. Because if we put it on the ribbon piece, so if we were to set one in the middle there, I've done that many, many times, by the way, it might give us a kind of a funny look on our card. All right, now we are ready to put down our sentiment here, and we're going to have it so it kind of slides a little bit off the edge. So all we really need to do here is glue this piece down, and then the ribbon's going to kind of keep it held right there. Now, if we want, we can actually put a dimensional on the far end of this, just so it does not get like crushed down when you mail it. So there we go. We're going to put this right across there. And that way we get a nice, even looking card. Isn't that beautiful? I just love it. Now we're going to finish it off with a couple of our black matted dots. Get this out of the way. And we'll bring these in here. We'll get our take your pick tool. And we're just going to put a few of these little guys right up here. And we'll put one more just down below here. There we go. And there you have it. So this one we did just slightly different from this one here. But there you have it. Guys, I think I kind of like this one better, but I love this Melon Mambo. I love that color. All right, so there we go. One more card. Now we're down to one more. And I'm going to move this out of the way here. And for this card, and I didn't write the measurements because this one is pretty straightforward. We are going to need and I honestly, you guys, you will not believe this. I left the card base. So what we're going to need is you're going to need a piece of 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. You're going to need a little bit of vellum just for us to trim something out. You're going to need some scrap white paper for our sentiment. Then you are going to need another piece of 5.5 by 4 1/4 white cardstock. Now, we're actually going to end up trimming it down a little bit. So you don't need, I mean, you could do 4 inches by 5 1/4. So if you have that laying around, you'll want to use it. So this is what we're going to do for this card. Let me show you what it looks like. This is a totally different, same stamp set, but if you can see, we are going to do that little technique where you emboss and then you put ink over top of it. But I love it. I absolutely love it. So the only thing is I forgot the card base here in front of me, but that's okay. We can do all of this piece here. So let me go ahead and show you. We're going to take our piece of white cardstock and we are going to stamp. Only this time we are going to be stamping, not with yellow right now, but with Versamark. So we are going to need to clean our stamp. And I just realized I don't have, but that's okay. Look at this. I don't even have my stamp cleaner in here. You know what we're going to do, guys? We're just going to spray these with that lovely water that we had here. Just going to spray this, and I will put it on this little napkin here. And we'll just get that ink off. And that way we can put that in our Versamark and not ruin anything. All right. So there we have it. All right. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to take this and we're just going to really ink that up in our Versamark. And now we are going to stamp these images right down on our paper. And we'll just use this stamp to show this. And we'll do it again over here. And then we're going to do one more right in this corner here. All right. So we have now inked up our piece of white cardstock. Totally hard to see anything. And now we're going to bring in our white embossing powder. And all we're going to do is we're going to take it. I'm going to put over this little dish here. And you're just going to sprinkle this over your image. And we'll just do a little tapping here. And then we're going to, now if you guys have an embossing buddy, you can also do that. So during times when it's super static, like dry outside, we have a little rain. I've been doing this today and I haven't noticed that I'm getting I'm having any troubles or problems here today with the embossing powder. But hopefully now you guys can see, let's see, yeah, I think you can kind of see it there. All right, so now it is completely covered. So now what I'm going to do is I would run this through with the heat tool, and I would actually heat this all up. And then it would, once it gets shiny. And one thing I noticed about the white embossing powder is it did seem to take a little bit longer, guys. So just to tell you that. But then this would get shiny, and I'm going to show you what it looks like because I already have one done. And voila, you can kind of see that little bit of shine, and that's what you're going to get. So now what we're going to do, I'm going to first, we're going to get rid of a little bit of this powder here. So we're just going to take our sheet here and we're just going to move that right over like that. So we can get, there we go. The one thing about it, right, it gets a little on the messy side. All right, so now we're going to take our embossed paper and we're going to bring our ink back in. And remember how we used our brush earlier? Well, we're going to use it again. And this time you're going to tap it. And again, you'll want to still start over here. And then you're just going to run right over these images. Now you guys can go as soft, so as subtle, or as deep as you would like for color. Totally up to you. If you want it to look maybe darker in the center and then lighter on the outs, on the edges. And that's what we're going to kind of do. We're going to have it be real dark in the center and then lighter along the edges. You could also do multiple colors as well. So as I see the green leaves here, I actually could pull those leaves out. I think the other thing I'm going to do on this one is maybe do all the way around the edges, just in yellow. Now I'm going to trim this down, so I'm not going to see any of those really super like harsh lines. But look how pretty that is. Isn't that just lovely? I just think it's so simple too. So there we have it. So now what we're going to do is now we're going to trim our card down. And I'm going to bring in our Stampin' trimmer. And we're going to put this right here. And again, if you remember, this was it was 5.5 by 4.25. So I don't quite need all that. So I'm just going to take a little bit off this end. And then I'm going to turn it around and make sure that it's now at 5 3/8. So right about there. And we'll trim this side down. And then I'm going to do the same on the other two sides. Okay, I'm going to go here to about 4 1/16. Turn this side down. And then we're going to turn it around and do the same thing there. And we're going to go to 4 1/8. A little bit more off maybe. There we go. All right. And now we'll move that out of the way. Now what we're going to do is now we're going to go ahead and get our sentiments, and we're going to make this a sympathy card. So for this one, we're just going to say with deepest sympathy, and we're going to stamp that. So make sure I'm right here. We're just going to stamp that right in the middle there. Okay. And done with that. Now we're going to use our Label Me Lovely punch, and we're going to just punch this out in. And then we're going to take our vellum and we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to punch out a piece of vellum. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take our piece of vellum here and we're going to cut this in half, because we want it to poke through the top of our sentiment here. And anytime you guys have something with a straight edge, you can do that every time. So we're just going to put a little adhesive, and then we're just going to figure out exactly how much we want to peek through there. Do the same thing on the other side. Line it up. See how much you want to peek through. Look at that. Perfect. Now we're going to take our piece of ribbon. I love this. I thought this ribbon was so soft, which is why I thought it would make for a very pretty card here. And we're just going to put a little bit of adhesive on both sides. Take our ribbon, put it down right there. There you have it. And we're going to take this, put it up on some dimensionals. And guys, we are going to, and then what I would do is obviously I would put this right on, oh, well now that was silly. Okay, so we're going to do that. We're going to have to do that a little differently, aren't we? Now here you'll want to make sure when you are putting this down right here that you don't put it on the vellum so it doesn't show. All right, and we're just going to put that right here, line it up nicely on our ribbon so it's even. And there you have it. And now we're going to take a few of our pearls and just add those. It's just such a soft look, right? So we'll just add just a few of these. Maybe up here at the top, and then we'll add one here at the bottom. And there you have it. So then you would just put this right on top of your white cardstock to get that done. But again, guys, let's bring in all the cards here so you can see them all, and all the ones that we've made today. And oops, let me bring that down so you can see them. Here is our other ones. We have our just a note, and then we have this one right here. Oops, there's our layers. There we go. All right. Anyhow, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you're watching on YouTube, give it a thumbs up, rumble, whatever method you're using. But if you need any of the products that we've shown, you can go to shop4seasonscrafts.com, or you can go to 4seasonscrafts.com. And then if you go down to shop, you can actually hit my store over there. Anyhow, thanks much, guys. Have a great Saturday and a wonderful Sunday. Take care. Bye.